Hi everyone, I'm here today with Claire O'Connor. Claire is the founder, franchisor and CEO of Baby Ballet. Thanks Claire for coming on.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
No, it's brilliant. Everyone doesn't have so much time, so yeah, it's great. Great you can make the time. So where I wanted to start was just about your brand, your business, your baby, I suppose, which is actually called Baby Ballet. Um, what does Baby Ballet do? Tell everyone listening.
So, Baby Ballet is a preschool and early years moving to music, dance, and ballet concept, and we specialize in making each and every child feel welcomed, and it's a very fun and inclusive atmosphere and environment in our classes. So, the syllabus and program has been developed over coming up 20 years now, and so we teach classes. We've got children's parties, got events, entertainment, children's characters, a book, merchandise, uniform. So from the very initial classes for giving children an inclusive experience, we've built a brand out which ultimately is franchise now, and we have over 115 franchise locations in the world.
Wow. Okay, so that's impressive. So I want to go, I want to go right back. So that's where you are now, and it's obviously been a journey. If we go right back, so I was just looking at your LinkedIn profile before this before this call, and I saw that it seems where you started, certainly on a LinkedIn profile, was like an estate agent or being, in an estate agency, and that was your first kind of thing that you did. And but talk us through where kind of you've gone, I guess, from those early days of when you get jobs and you do jobs and whatever comes up to how, how you got into the baby or the dance side of things. How did that all happen?
So I was born into a world of ballet because my mum is she had a ballet school and was high up in the ballet industry, and she's 86 and she still teaches and does a ballet class, so she's phenomenal. And she had her school as I was growing up, so I naturally went to ballet classes, and my early memories were all really good. But then as I got a little bit older, I started to kind of struggle with body image and comparisons, and basically at 14 I left not feeling good enough, not feeling thin enough, just not feeling enough, I suppose. And that kind of mental health impact really stuck with me. Now, my mum's school was beautiful. It was lovely, very family, community. But it was the wider ballet industry that I was wrongly comparing myself to because I was subjected to it with my mum's work. So it wasn't anything that anyone did to me. It was more my perception of the industry and how I felt. So I left at 14, and then I wasn't particularly academic as such. When I say academic, I just didn't really concentrate very well at school. So fast forward to now 51, I've just been diagnosed with ADHD, which answers so many questions.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's given me a new lease of life. So it does take me back to school days and thinking I I did enjoy school, but I wasn't very good at concentrating and focusing. I was at a grammar school, so I didn't go down very well with the teachers. So I came out of junior school, senior school, and then into A levels, scraped through, then got into university to do Spanish and media. But when I was at university, I still struggled quite with my mental health, and I I loved the social side of university, let's put it that way. And I came out of university after 2 years with a child and not a degree. That's my mum's favourite saying in the world. So I I then, unfortunately, I got postnatal depression, and I eventually got myself well. I got myself back, and I finished my degree, which was a real high for me. And then I was trying to find a job that fit in with being not so well and a single mom. And I did at that point. I worked in the Trafford Centre in retail, and then I also worked in a estate agency. And I always like really commit to what I'm doing, so I was really focused, but it didn't really have a journey for me. So my mum invited me then to come and work for her in her ballet school. So I went to work for my mum in her ballet school, and it just seemed to me that the wider ballet industry was still very competitive, very about being the best, very about being thin, and it made me feel really sad. So that coincided with some preschool classes that we started in my mum's school at a local play gym that she found. And all of a sudden, this atmosphere was one of happiness. It was welcoming. The children were having a beautiful time. The parents and carers were enjoying it. It was a safe community, I think, an inclusive and fun community. So it was from that then I stood there one day in the play gym and thought, I need to get this feeling everywhere, like the whole world. I want to experience this and bring fun and happy positivity to ballet. Now, this wasn't just what I was doing, but it was driven by my own emotions and, personal experience. And it was a preschool brand that I could sort of envisage. And so, yeah, so I stood there that day, but then the negative head said to me, well, you can't do that because you're not good enough. You're not. And it would not leave me. This niggling thought would not leave me. So I worked on the concept. And then from 99 to 2005, just did so much research and in the classes and outside, and then decided that franchising was going to be the best model to develop and grow the dream.
Wow. So did you start it? So which came first? Did you start building the business first? I know obviously your mum had a ballet school and all of that, but did you start building the kind of the baby ballet franchise model with franchising in mind from the start? Or did you actually build a business independently yourself first and then franchising came along? I'm just trying to understand, how that happened.
Yeah, it kind of weaved together, I suppose, because when I was running the classes and the initial preschool classes, there were only 2 to start with, and then that grew to 4.
Yeah.
Nobody actually really believed in it, like the bigger vision. Even my mum didn't believe in it because she was like, well, people will just do their own thing. But my vision was a brand, it was a community, it was more than just the class. So I was doing a lot of work in the background, and so we were just had these 4 classes, which at that point were attached to my mum's school. So it was a business, but engulfed in sort of in encompassing my mum's business. And so then I was working on the franchise side of things, and I actually came across franchising by just seeing a billboard for another children's activity in one of the halls that my mum was setting up in once, and I just researched it. The internet was just becoming a thing, which was
Yeah.
really good timing.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh wow, franchising seems like a brilliant way to do this. So it was kind of overlapping, I suppose. And then when I got to 2005, my mum said, look, I know you've got this idea. Would you want me to give you those 4 classes and go on your own or continue with me? And so I was like, right, no, I want to be brave and take the leap. So that's how it came about, really.
And is that when you kind of you and your mum were kind of working together and you split off, did you at that point? Or did you
So I
carry on
split
working?
off.
You
Yeah,
did.
so I
Yeah.
split off, yeah,
Yeah.
and then set up my own. I did a pilot from the February to the September 2005,
Yeah.
and my mum school kept, she kept running that separately. And then in 2005, that's when I'd gained the confidence and it was just so busy and there was so many people enjoying what we were doing. I was opening different classes. And so that really kind of gave me the confidence then to open the limited company in the September. So I was doing that, yeah, on my own then.
Right. And the name Baby Ballet, I know names sometimes seem so obvious. How did you decide on that? Because you could have gone, I guess, lots of routes. You could have gone a kind of a generic kind of dance form. Were you always very much, no, ballet is the focus. We'll niche in on that, on ballet, not general dance and things, and obviously baby ballet. How did you think about all that?
To be honest, I just went with my heart and it was just it all evolved.
Yeah.
So there was, I'd say at the beginning, there was very little strategy and planning. It was all passion driven, and the name is what we used for the class. And then other people call their other, their preschool classes or their first classes, they may call their classes baby ballet. So to start with, it was quite difficult until we got the trademark, and it was just the name really just fit and it suited and it did what it said it was doing. And although it is ballet, it's very movement and dance based as well, very educational. It's really like I developed the program so it would be physically, emotionally, socially, and mentally stimulating and educational for the children. So it was kind of not just a ballet class for little ones, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I do very, very much so. So, no, it's funny. It's when I was growing up, I went to ballet classes, right? So I must have been about 9 years old, 8, 9 years old. No, but I didn't last long. And you know why I didn't last long? Because I was the only boy there. And obviously at that time I was just really kind of, scared of girls. I was too young. I was 9, and I was the only boy, and all the girls wanted to dance with me, and it just absolutely put me off. And I lasted not very long, maybe about 6 months or so, and then went. And so, I wanted to ask you because it's very inclusive, by gender, if you like, and you've but so how do you kind of navigate that to attract kind of the boys as much as the girls? Because it's I'm sure I don't I'm guessing it's changed since I was 9. That's like 40 years ago. But how have you seen the kind of the perception around ballet either change or maybe not change, and maybe it's still a struggle to attract boys?
It's been really interesting actually. And when I first started, it was for everybody. So everybody was welcome, whether special educational needs, whether boys, whether girls, whether it just felt like ballet was so shoehorned into this kind of like just girls are allowed to go, and there wasn't enough going on around it to like attract other people in. And so I wanted to kind of open up those boundaries and say, look, everyone can come and enjoy ballet. It doesn't matter. And when you get people into our classes, they realize that it's not a traditional ballet class. There's, so much learning and education built in there that it's suitable for every child. For me, the biggest barrier still is the male influences on boys' lives. So not so much the mum, you still get people saying, like, oh, I can't bring my boy, he's going to go to football. But thankfully, football is pivoting now with the way that that's now perceived and allowed, we'll sit and watch the girls' football, women's
Yeah.
football, as well as the men's at home. And so there's that. Hopefully, these barriers will start to break down in society now, and that it is the tends to be the male influencers. They're just fearful of letting their boys go to ballet. But when we do get dads through the door, or grandparents or carers, whoever might be bringing those boys, they kind of like, I think they feel a bit like, oh, why didn't I come sooner? Because the amount of things they're learning, and it is the word. So many people have said to me all along, you need to change the word ballet because it's not welcoming. I was like, no, we need to change the perception to the word ballet, not the word ballet, because it's what we do. And so hopefully that is changing. My husband's in professional sport. He's a one on the coaching team at Salford, and one of his players is he stopped me a few weeks ago, and he said, Claire, I just want to say thank you, because I went to baby ballet and it gave me so many skills that I'm really grateful for now. And I was like, hallelujah, this is amazing, because we need more people to speak out like that. Amir is a big guy, and he's like like rugby player, and he didn't care that he came to baby ballet. He didn't care about the word ballet, and he was just grateful. And so hopefully I will still keep banging the drum as long as I have to just hopefully help people to feel more comfortable to bring boys to the classes. And we do get boys coming now, we do get boys in, but still it is probably the same as football, and there's that, we're gonna got quite a way to go until it's a 50-50 split, I think.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So but the world is changing, as you say, Claire, and it is good to see that. And
Yeah.
so tell me, so you went down the franchising road. Who became your first franchisee or first franchisees? How did that happen? How did you start to grow your network in those early
So
days?
yeah, so the franchising kind of model had come into my mind, and then once I'd started to explore that, it really did seem like the very best way to grow, because I was panicking thinking, well, if I get a class in London or I get a class here and then someone rings in sick, how am I going to manage those teachers? So it's kind of like the best way. But franchising was actually it was quite an unknown word in the ballet industry, and I still think there's very few ballet franchises. So um, I just sort of like, I probably felt a little bit fearful myself of like saying, well, I want to create a franchise in the ballet world, because it didn't feel like it was the norm. So once I'd started in the classes that I had and then grew that, I'd grown probably to about 25 classes in a few different locations. and some of those spanned over into Huddersfield. So Halifax and Huddersfield are joint next to each other. And it was actually a friend of a friend who introduced me to someone to the first franchisee and just said, "Oh, I think this will be good for you, and I think it'll be good for them." And so yeah, so that seems like an age ago now, but that was how it first started, and then it just we were building our franchise in Halifax. That was the first one, and as that grew, it was just the bleeding effect really that still happens wherever we open a new baby ballet. Then we tend to get people from nearby territories then finding out it's a little bit more. So yeah, that's how it spread.
Brilliant. Right. And so in the UK, so you've got 115. What's your footprint in the UK itself at the moment then?
So we've got 85 franchisees in the UK. 85 franchises with 89 franchisees. We just had 4 more train last week. So we're always on a high when we've done new franchise training, because you get that new zest, don't you, and like newbies getting out there. And yeah, so it's we've kind of like, yeah, got the full spread of the country. Still many territories available though. So we've still got room for growth in the UK, which we're excited about. And yeah, so then the next stage will be sort of international franchising, because we do license in Australia and Australia and New Zealand, whereas here it's a pure franchise model.
It's a pure franchise model. So okay. So and yeah, so tell me about in the UK, how many more franchisees could there be, or territories if we want to talk like that? How do you break it down, and what is the capacity?
So we have our exclusive territory is around 20,000 naught to 6-year-olds. So the mapping allows us to drill down onto those demographics, which is great. And we've probably got a 60% fill at the minute. So we've got about another 40%
Oh wow.
to go. So yeah, so
Yeah.
it's it's crazy when you look at the map and you think back to that first little class in a little play gym, and now I look at the map and go, oh my goodness me, there's so many.
No, it's amazing, and so and for anyone that's interested in the business, looking maybe to become a franchisee or knows someone that this business would suit down to the ground, just on what they've heard or seen briefly, where's the best place for them to start? Where should they go? Is there a website like a best starting point to find out more?
Yeah, probably the best starting point would be the website. So that's just www.babyballet.co.uk. And if it's global, there's a .com site as well. And really, if someone is serious, we want to kind of hear more about them. So the recruitment process is really, it's really been well developed, so that we know that we're not going to waste anybody's time if it's not going to be really for them. And then we can really kind of like have conversations and get to know the people who were potentially interested, because I mean, as you will know, it's a long-term relationship that we want to forge. So we spend a lot of time nurturing those relationships and really getting to know the people who are interested in becoming franchise owners. And yeah, it's kind of, I think we've got a lot better over the years at kind of working out who's right. And it's always a difficult conversation when it might not be right, but it's for the best in the long term for both ourselves and the person. We wouldn't want anyone to invest if it wasn't going to be right for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's my whole background in franchising is kind of enabling all of that, what you've just described there. And I kind of my term for it is sustainable franchising. I think that's, there's no point franchising unless it's sustainable. And to be honest, sustainability is based on people, the right people. And finding the right franchisees, and that is so crucial and so critical, and you can't always get it right. If the best will in the world, you can't always get it right, but you can do everything to try and get it right. And I think that's the best franchisors are the ones that they know the profile of person who's best going to suit this business. They've had experience in it, and they can be really honest with themselves and with the people that are interested. If it's not right, to say, yeah, no, this isn't right. And so that's what I was going to come on to. Actually, I was going to ask you, um, the kind of the profiles of your franchisees. Do they fit? Like, how broad is it? Because I can, and I know people listening might sit back and think of it's generally, let's call you a children's activity franchise. And they think, oh, children's activity franchise, yeah, that's great. Um, it's for, it's for new mums who are obviously maybe leaving their corporate career or coming out of what they were doing, and it's a hobby business, or it's a part-time business, or it can be a little side hustle, or it can be, a great work-life balance. And I think a lot of people kind of see, maybe like a baby ballet type franchise in that way. So I want you to tell me how you see it, and how you want others to see this business, treat this business, and really truly understand the potential of this business in their area, and how wide open maybe the profile of person can be, or should be. And yeah, so all of that, Claire, it would be good to cover that.
Yeah, so it's been a really interesting kind of like journey in finding out who those like the when you say the best people, it's probably the right fit people, so
Yeah.
that both you and them can be successful and work really well together. And we are so invested in our franchisees, and we want them to be as invested in us. So the profiling is, it hasn't changed in the years. It's just evolved in a more kind of just become more, we're very much more knowledgeable about, what sort of person, what personality, where they're at with, other commitments and things. And ours is definitely not a part-time franchise. It's a full-time business. And I think with children's activities, because I started this off because of passion, and I had to learn about business, learn about franchising, and separate my own personal stuff with the business stuff. And it attracts a lot of people who are very passionate about what we do. We get a lot of ex-performers, a lot of dance teachers, and the business side of it, I had to learn the business side of it. So we never ever would say no to someone if they didn't have the business experience, because we've got enough systems and processes and support in place now to really nurture everybody on their own business journey. But it does help if it's not someone who just thinks, oh, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to go and teach the classes, and I'm going to come home. It wouldn't work, because, as you know, running a franchise, it's a business, and it's got to have the, not necessarily all the knowledge at the beginning, but that real kind of drive to learn about and taking it seriously as a business, so that that they're not, the new franchisees are not going to come on board and just all of a sudden think, oh, hang on a minute, I've got to do all this myself. So we kind of explain it to new franchisees and say, we can give you the box with the big pink bow on top, and but you're the one that's got to open it and take everything out and then put all those things into place. We'll be there to support you from the side, but we can't do the do. So I suppose it's a lot of children's activities franchises, and I think sometimes they probably get a bit of a disservice, because I know some incredible business people and other franchisors who have fantastic franchise businesses, and I think sometimes because they're seen as children's activities, it feels a bit like we're playing at it. And that could be the perception, but to grow to the level that we have, we've had to like really develop, and knowing the right people is not knowing the right people, but attracting the right people is crucial for us to kind of like continue to grow that vision with the right brand values and ethos. Because if people don't believe in what we do and they just see it as, oh, I want to just do a little bit part-time hobby, there's no point in it for either person. So yeah, so the profiling, and I actually really, really love the profiling side of it. I've, like from the team that we've got at head office, and from my own personal development, learning about personal profiling and who you are, what drives you, and what your strengths are, has been really key to the growth over the last few years, probably since the pandemic, when we done a lot more work on that. So yeah, we profile every franchisee before they come on board. And then they really know, kind of like, they start off in their journey with us more aware of where they sit and what they're going to be kind of probably find a little bit easier or enjoyable or whatever. So yeah, no, it's did that answer your question? Because it felt like you asked me a lot of questions.
No,
I didn't
I
know
asked a
whether I
lot of
was
questions. I think you covered it. No, it's interesting you talk about profiling. I mean, do you use profiling tools, Claire? Like, what do you use? Like, what's your process with that? Because I find that so interesting, that area. It just helps as a guide and helps, ask questions which you might not otherwise have asked. And so, yeah, when did you bring that in, and how long have you been using that?
I did the first one personally about 14 years ago, and it was a coach that was working on as part of a bigger director support network group.
Yeah,
And she just got fed up of me talking about all the things I was doing wrong. So she introduced me to one that was called I3, and it literally was life changing because it just showed. And actually, my husband did one at the same time, and our opposites were like, it was just so brilliant to see it in that way, and like how we both approach things so differently. It
yeah.
just helped me understand myself better, and then that helps with having to lead a team, having to lead a network. And so now that the franchisees, I can't remember what it's called, the new one. We've got a new one that we use. It's called Disc.
Yeah,
Disc,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Disc, yeah, I know disc. Yeah.
it's fabulous. So then we can plot everybody on that, and we all have a bit of a laugh about each other's strengths and weaknesses, and that's why I picked that bit up, because you're not you're not happy about doing that bit. So as a team, it's been brilliant. So the wider franchise network is we all franchisees get profiled now, and it's fascinating watching their faces as well. And so many just go, "Oh my God, that's got me off to a T." That's
No, it is. It's good. It's a really really good tool to use, and it just allows conversation. I think that's what I found whenever I've used it and been involved in that. It allows that conversation, allows people to look at themselves a little bit more, on written down on paper, right? Effectively or essentially, and then just see themselves and admit their weaknesses, I think, more easily. It's not a problem, right? Everyone's different, and some person's strengths are another person's weaknesses, and the other way around. And you've got to just be aware of that. And I think so. I think that's so good to hear you're doing that, because I think a lot of franchisors don't use any form of profiling, and there's no problem with that. But I do think that there's a lot you can do if you bring that in. It can add a lot of value to that journey. So
it's great from a support point of view as well, because then the team at head office can then look, they know everybody who's been profiled, and they can, that'll be on their on their files. And we get to know people, like, as like in a franchise network, everyone becomes part of the family, don't they? And everyone knows each other. But actually, from what your strengths and weaknesses point of view are, or what it'll help them if they're struggling with something, to then refer back to the profile to think, right, okay, so we're batting our heads against a little bit of a brick wall. I think we might need a bit more support from that. So from an admin point of view, or from a marketing point of view, or from a customer service, whatever, it all translates really well into the business, sort of like the different parts of running the business. So it's really useful from a support point of view.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, supporting a franchise network is is challenging, can be very challenging if you don't set up in the right way. And I think that's the thing. Good communication tools, good support tools, and people that understand that every single franchisee is different, and they might all be doing really well, but they're all different within that, and to be able to have a bit more of an insight into how to address that, how to mentor them, if you like, or because everyone's different. Some people like something written down. Other people prefer like a Zoom, like a more face to face. Some people absolutely need right, to be right there physically, like in person, and they react much better to that. And just understanding that, I think, is really really key. And we found that not supporting a franchise network effectively ultimately leads to the demise of the franchise. It can lead to the whole business failing in not a good way. And that when the franchisor fails, most of the time, most of the franchisees fail as well. So it's not just one business, it can be 100 businesses. off the back of that are reliant. And so putting in a good support structure is absolutely key. And I was going to ask you for a tip, maybe, to anyone that is looking at, maybe they're in a similar position to you were all those years ago. They're thinking about franchising their business. They've got a good business somewhere. They're thinking about franchising it. And okay, you got to have some systemization. You've got to set things up, and you've got to have some tools and processes and all of that. So that's all good. You then got to find people. Okay, that can be a struggle and a challenge. And so, but then you've got people now coming on. What tip would you say from the start, right, to what are good things to think about to manage the communication, to manage the support of those people who are just one or two people in the beginning, and then that's going to grow? What would you say to do? What steps?
From a communication point of view, I'd just say that the best thing that you can do is listen. And as you're evolving, and I think just being open and honest about where you're at on the journey as well, because people tend to look at the franchisor for all the answers, all the, like, and we're all right here, right now, aren't we? And it's like, so even at the beginning, I wish I'd have had more courage to be more open, I think, to franchisees, because you kind of like think, no, I've got to have all the answers and they're coming to me, they're buying from me. But actually, the best way that we now grow is to be very open, honest, collaborative with our franchisees. We listen to feedback, what's going out there for everybody. And of course, we've got to make systems and processes that will work for everyone to make sure it's consistency is maintained and upheld. But it's just listening, and I love listening to my franchisees. I love listening to how they're getting on, what their challenges are, and then we can spot any trends. We can start to work with things that might not be working so well anymore. And we do the work buzz survey, which is really great, because then we get that really honest and open feedback. The first time I did it was, I think I thought I was gonna like cry for a week after the first time I got it, but oh my goodness, I embrace it so much now. Like, it's just such a brilliant thing to get that honest feedback, completely anonymous, so franchisees can open up their hearts and tell you exactly what's going well and what's not. And that, of course, you can then collate all that feedback. We do a full report after we've got all ours. We sit down and then we plan for the next 12 months based on that feedback into the strategy, because we ultimately want our franchisees to be happy and content. And so being open, and also about talking to them about things that you can't do. So, we say, well, it's a brilliant idea. Thank you so much for sharing it. Unfortunately, we can't do that because of X, Y, or Z, and I try and help franchisees understand the position we're in by saying it's like if all some of our franchisees have got over 1,000 children, which means 1,000 or 2,000 parents
Yeah.
potentially talking to them about, what they want improving. So it's like liken it to where you are with your, you'd want to change the world for everybody who comes to your classes, but you've got to make, you've got to set boundaries and you've got to make rules. So that really helps. But having those conversations is just the best, when I think I probably avoided them for a long time because I was fearful of the answers and of getting things wrong. Whereas now I'm not afraid to say, we're not going to get everything right. We're all learning together. It really is evolving as a business, and we're all in this place where we are right now.
So Claire, yeah, the Work Buzz franchisee satisfaction survey. So I know a lot about that. I've seen a lot of those, and we've had a lot of our clients that have used it over the years. When would you suggest that it's first used? Like at what level, like how many franchisees is a good time to implement the use of that? Because it is an anonymous tool, it is anonymous feedback. So if you've got one franchisee, it's not really going to work. But at what kind of level would you say? 10? Start it from there and then do it every year, and then use it as a tool moving forward.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think 10. We didn't know about it until the pandemic. So it was not till
Yeah.
after the pandemic that we did the first one. But I think about 10 would be a good number, because you've got, like you said before, every single franchisee is different, so if you've got five, maybe that, you're getting five opinions, and it's some are brave enough to tell you straight up, this is what I'm unhappy about. Some don't feel comfortable to be confrontational. So it's really is a great way. So yeah, so I think the sooner rather than later, really. But there is a cost obviously attached to it, but we found that feedback outweighs the cost, because the value of what we get, the information wise, allows us to then really steer the pink ship in the right direction for the next 12 months.
Yeah. And Claire, the last thing I just want to touch on was just how franchising can be so positive, but how difficult it is to be a good franchisor. Because I think, and when I say good, I mean good in the terms of you're running a good business, and you're helping every franchisee to run a good business as well, in their own areas, and those that are struggling a little bit, you've got support in there, so you're trying to help in those areas. Um, what what's the biggest challenge with bringing all that together to get where you are? Because I can stand back and say, wow, what you've achieved is incredibly impressive in the UK, and yes, you're looking outside of the UK now, and yeah, you've still got a long way. You've still got lots to go, right? But what's the biggest challenge in maintaining and keeping that and improving all the time, because that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah, constantly. And I think it comes down to, probably, if you are the franchisor or the leader of a franchise company, and then everyone that you're responsible for is self-care and looking after yourself, because it's out there now that your mental health as well as physical health is important. And I definitely didn't look after mine, and had a couple of really quite big breakdowns, which I wouldn't wish on anybody. And if I'd have been more mindful of that along the way, I would have prevented some really difficult times. And obviously, if you're not well, then the rest of the network is going to suffer. And it's been weird. If I look back at the kind of like the franchisor journey, I just kept letting layer after layer after layer after problem after problem after person after this, as well as the same times, like, my number one focus is my family and my 4 children, and my husband and my dog. So I'm like, I was building that around. I just did not give myself enough love at all. And I'd say that to look after yourself as a business owner, as a franchisor, as a even the support team, the franchisees, the teachers, is to put yourself at the top of the pile, not at the bottom. Because when you are fit and healthy and well, then you are kind of like charging on all cylinders. And yeah, it's sort of like you can't pour from an empty cup. And mine was just, yeah, it was the toughest time to go through that, and it did nobody any good. So we think that we're protecting everybody else by by not shouting out or saying, I need some help. But everyone needs help, and then everyone will benefit from you getting that help. And I think as well, it's like, maybe a bit of, you don't want to admit that you're not able to do things. You may be thinking that I'm going to look like I'm not capable. But it really is the opposite. When you reach out, nobody can have all the answers, can they? And I think for too long I thought that I should have all the answers. And we've now, from a franchise point of view, I'm loving and enjoying my role more than I ever have. And that's because I've started to really understand myself, what my stresses are, what what triggers me, what I need to say no to really understanding that personal development has been key to me getting into a really happy place as a franchisor.
Brilliant. Well, Claire, I think that's a brilliant, excellent place to end this, actually. And just to say thanks so much for your time. I've really appreciated it, and I'm sure a lot of people listening will relate to a lot of what you've said. And there's some really good information on there. So yeah, appreciate your time, and I'm sure we will meet at a franchise event in the future at some point or another.
Thank you. That would be great. And I'd just like to say that, my inbox is open. If anybody does have any questions or wants to ask anything, I'm always happy to, pass anything on, because I've got people who I can turn to, and that support with people who know exactly where you're at and what you're wanting to achieve is been really useful and helpful to me. So yeah, I'm there to help if anyone needs anything.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Claire, for that. And have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for
All right.
inviting me.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Bye.